It's so good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Joe. It's my pleasure.
So let's begin our journey with this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed our lives, changed the world. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
That is such an absolutely loaded question for me,
Yeah.
because I'm a practicing dentist. And so, as you know, a lot of things closed down, and I had to close my office and go, have my employees go on unemployment and just things that I never thought that I'd need to deal with ever in my life. Personally, prior to that, my father passed away at the end of February.
Wow.
And then my elderly mother, they're both in their 90s. My elderly mother needed a hip replacement, and she literally was in the hospital when things were closing down. So, personally and professionally, it was just mind blowing, and it all melds together in a big, snarly, emotional, surreal kind of a way. Um, so back at the office, we would go into the office and we were like MacGyver. I was taking if someone cracked a tooth and we knew just hold on a little longer. I think we're going to be able to open up soon. Let me put an orthodontic elastic around that tooth to hold it together till we can get you back in and get that crown ready for you. I
Yeah.
mean, it was crazy. And I don't know if the general public understands, but prior to COVID, you could go into any hardware store and pick up an N95 mask for cheap, 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 right? In order for us to be allowed to open our doors and serve our patients again, we were not allowed to open without these N95 masks. And they were supposed to be fit test specific to each mask. So I would have certain team members who refused to come back to work unless their mask was fit test. And I said, that's fine. I get that. We'll do that. Took a while to get that scheduled and then to get them in. It's like, you understand, I'm paying $14 for each mask. $14 for a mask that was, pennies on the dollar a month before.
Yeah.
And I can't promise that I can get the same mask twice. So we are not, it's just not feasible that we're going to get every single mask fit test. Um, so that's the long and the short of it. It was a crazy time and we got through.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But that's the one medical field, one of them that you literally couldn't do remotely. There was no telehealth with dental. You have
Mm,
to do it all in person. In person. I mean, I'm sure there's some consults, but that's you're hairpinned with having to do it in person.
exactly. And the other thing was that we had to change some things, like jump through some hoops. But outside of an N95 versus a level 3 mask, there wasn't a whole lot that we needed to change.
Yeah.
Dentistry has been like that. It's the closest thing to a sterile operating room that you can get that's
Yeah.
not an operating room.
Yeah.
All of our instruments are autoclaved. We are in personal protective equipment. Everything is disinfected, sterilized between each patient. We did a little bit of changes with air filtration and things like that. But honestly, I think that made people's immunity compromised. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't know. We had never come across this kind of a pandemic before. It had been 100 years since our previous pandemic, and so we didn't know what we were dealing with. People were scared for their lives. Like people were dying, and that's all very real. Um, that being said, living behind masks for extended periods of time just crushed our immune systems. Why has there been so much flu and every other respiratory disease under the sun in the years following?
Yeah.
Why has there been so much mental health disease
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, in the years following that because of isolation and everything else? So when we weren't exercising our immune system by challenging it with these germs at low doses, all of a sudden a regular germ comes by and our bodies don't know what to do with it,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
used to be before the pandemic, I would not speak to a patient with my mask on. And that was a kind of a rule in my office between my teammates and myself. It's like, you talking to a patient, take that mask off.
Yeah.
So anytime we're working, we're running hand pieces and this and that, masks are on, then we take them off. After the pandemic, it was opposite.
Yeah.
Like, do not talk to a patient unless you have a mask on.
Hmm.
And that changed how people could trust us. It
Yeah.
changed communication because if we look into metalinguistics, I don't remember what it is. 7% of our communication is our words. 35-ish, give or take, 38, 32, something like that, is the tone, the pitch, the pace, the intonation, right?
Uh-huh.
I love bananas. I love bananas. Those are two of the same sentences, right? But they're different things. And then the body language
Yep.
is 60 something percent. We
Uh-huh.
lost so much of that when we're hiding behind a mask.
Yeah.
I hired new team members during the pandemic. I came home and my husband said, "Oh, great, you hired a new person for the front desk. How's her smile?" I said, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it because the whole interview was with a mask on, and I'm in the business of smiles. So, oh my gosh, as I said, I could go on and on for days
Yeah.
about all the different far-reaching tentacles. Um, but it was crazy times,
It
and
was.
we're good.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Today, you got a book, you're still practicing. If we were to get a handle on exactly what you do on a daily basis, I'm going to put you in front of 12-year-olds at career day, and the kid in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer them?
I help people to breathe, sleep, and live with greater wellness. So that happens with I'm screening people for airway issues, snoring, sleep apnea, or other sleep-related breathing disorders. No, I wouldn't use those words with a 12-year-old, but the
Yeah.
first sentence, yes.
Yeah.
I help people with their alignment. So not only am I a dentist and a diplomate with the American Board of Dental Sleep Medicine, so helping people with, again, sleep and breathing. I'm also a yogi. I'm a over 500-hour certified yoga instructor. And so I help people with their alignment of their bodies, of their teeth, their jaw muscles, their jaw joints, all of it. It's the whole picture, the holistic view of wellness. And that's where my book comes in, Bliss
Yes.
Not Burnout.
Yes.
Um, and it's based on my trademark approach to wellness, which is elemental wellness. Elemental wellness combines Western or modern medicine, what we call allopathic medicine, with traditional wisdom of Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, which just means life wisdom or life knowledge, which is the same thing as the word biology. That just means the study of life, right? So it's nothing to get scared of. I'm not trying to change anybody's belief system. These are all complementary. And I combine that with yoga, breathing, meditation, mindfulness, alignment, airway, all of that together to make elemental wellness. And this is what I bring to the world in the hopes of shifting our perspective of wellness
Yeah.
to be more all-encompassing and more holistic. So this past week, for instance, I was teaching at the University of Connecticut, a couple of first and second, not a couple, first and second year dental and medical students all week long. And it was such a blast because I could share with them yoga, self-care, and elemental wellness. And they're sponges. It really gave me hope for the future
Yeah.
because as rising healthcare professionals, we need people who are looking at things holistically. I
Yeah.
don't look at my dental patients as mouths with teeth in them.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
don't look at people as just physical bodies. There's so much more there. And so I was teaching these concepts to the students. I've also taught physician assistants, dentists, dental teams, respiratory therapists, all sorts of folks about how to really view healthcare more holistically through elemental wellness. And I share that in my book,
Yeah.
Let's Not Burn Out. Yeah.
So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
At 12 years old, well, maybe at 5 years old, I wanted to be a bus driver. But by
Love
the
it.
time I got to puberty, I wanted to, I'm not sure at 12. I know in high school, I wanted to look into possibly mental health,
Yeah.
being some kind of mental health care provider. And, so I am, right?
Yeah.
People don't sit in the dental chair and not have emotional or history or trauma or nervousness or anxiety. They don't just sit down in the chair and not bring all of those other bags with them,
Yeah.
right? And so there is a whole lot of psychology that we need to be adept at and knowledgeable of how to help people to be comfortable. And that's where I bring in elemental wellness
Yeah.
because when we view people in a simple way, non-judgmentally, I can see, oh, they're bringing in the elements, a lot of air and wind, right? Those are very subtle, very mobile elements. That's someone who's maybe nervous or anxious or rushed from a stressful job meeting through traffic to get to their dental appointment,
Yeah.
and they've got to leave early because they've got to go pick up their kid at daycare and take them to their activity. And there's just so much going around. I know that my response needs to be opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's another way to look at it. It's like, okay, I can balance their air and space with some earth tendencies. So I'll be real grounded. I'll lower my voice. I'll slow down my speech.
Yeah.
I'll be more still. I'll sit down eye to eye, knee to knee, instead of looking down at them or talking to them from behind their back, right? We'll look face to face and I'll just breathe and kind of let them decompress, you know? So
Yeah.
these are all the skills that I was sharing with the medical and dental students this week. And it's a really, really refreshing way to look at the world, at ourselves, at other people, and our environment.
A lot of this is woven into our psyche very early on in our lives. What was it about your childhood that gave you these elements of mental health and helping people and giving them that calm and getting to a better place?
That's interesting. I am the youngest of seven siblings, and we're really spread out. Or at least at the tail end where I am, it's a little more spread out as far as age. And I, um, I always felt loved. I always felt loved and accepted. As a matter of fact, I was my own worst critic, the hardest on myself. So I don't know if it comes from that space. Um, And certainly as a teenager, I did have a bicycle versus motor vehicle accident that gave me a mild traumatic brain injury. I don't know how you would call that mild, right? I wasn't in a coma, but I was in the ICU for a week.
Yeah.
And that changes your perspective as a young person. That's something I firmly believe in, that when we are faced with adversity, whether it's a pandemic or a brain injury or the loss of a loved one or an injury or an illness. It sucks. And we got to find the lucky part of it. We've got to find the gift. We've got to find, like, how can I learn from this? What is the lesson here? What was this meant to be for me? And so I knew at 17 that I didn't die and I wasn't permanently impaired. And so there must be a reason and a purpose that I'm on this earth. And so I knew that I needed to give back and make the world a better place for me having been in it. And circling back to your question about what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old is really interesting because it's reminding me when I was at that age, I hadn't had any true adversity up till that point. I was really interested in reading about people who faced adversity,
Yeah.
people with mental health disorders. At the time, we called it multiple personalities, or people who had Lou Gehrig's disease and their struggle, and people who had injuries from which they came back from or they didn't recover from, but just the attitude they had in the after. And so I think I always knew that if I was faced with a big challenge, like some bad diagnosis or a bad injury, that I would fight to get my life back
Yeah.
and that I would work really hard. And then that kind of happened, right?
Yeah.
We got to be careful what we think about and
Uh-huh.
I wasn't wishing for it.
Right.
I promise you that.
Sure.
But be careful what we think of and prepare for because we just might have that happen. It just may manifest. So, yeah, my younger self kind of prepared for my slightly older self, and that really shaped how I view the world. I don't believe that anything happens for no reason. I don't believe any of us is here for no reasons. So it's just a matter of figuring out what is each of our gifts? What is each of our purpose? What is that thing that we're supposed to share with the world, big or small?
Yeah. The other element of helping us get to a better place and to overcome adversity are the heroes or the inspirational forces Who has been that for you? Who's consistently been there that's allowed you to find your voice and your place on this planet right now?
Hmm. I'd say my whole family has been there. Um, when I was younger, again, when I was in high school, it was my high school choral teacher. It wasn't any of the science or the, the STEM kind of classes that prepared me for dental school. It was the chorus teacher. And I felt cared for, and he even expressed that he cared for me like a daughter. What a beautiful thing. I don't know if educators would be afraid to say something like that today, right? Maybe it's not allowed or it's taboo or, someone might get the wrong idea. But for someone who I respected and looked up to see me and see me, right? Like we say in yoga, the peace and light in me sees the peace and light in you. That's what the whole namaste thing is about, right?
Yeah.
He saw me, and that's a beautiful thing. We each have that ability every single day to see people. Um, whether it's someone at a grocery store making eye contact, or seeing someone trying to pull their car out in traffic and just being courteous to them. I see you, smile, respect, acknowledgement. Um, so I suppose my teacher did in high school. On an ongoing basis, I do work with a coach. My husband is a very big support. And I think as well that just having that higher purpose, knowing being called to make a difference in the world is its own power, its own source of energy that leads me forward, that causes me to want to continue on and to donate my time last week and to give back to make that difference.
So when that alarm clock goes off in the morning, what is it that gets you to put your feet on the ground, to do this work, to help make change, to take care of your own soul? What is that collective energy for you every day?
It's the knowledge that I can make a difference. You
Yeah.
know, um, I also had a time during my 30s when I got sick, and I share about that in Bliss Not Burnout. And it was directly because of stress and poor communication and not taking care of myself because I wasn't as self-aware or self-caring. And so what I write about and what I share through blogs and newsletters and videos and everything like that through teaching is self-awareness in order to take self-care and have self-compassion. Because it's only when we do those things that we're more aware, caring, and compassionate of others. And I truly believe that, as I shared with the students this week, each of us, when we do that, it has a ripple effect. So if we do this math, if I worked with 25 students this week, and conservatively in their lifetimes, each of them takes care of 10,000 patients. And just because of the interactions and the strategies and the tools and the perspective that I shared this week, they have a little more holistic view and they care for their patients a little more holistically. So now we're up to 250,000 people. But if those people in turn influence 10 other people because they were cared for more holistically, maybe it's their spouse or their partner, their children, their coworkers, their extended family and friends, and so on and so on and so on. So now we're into the millions of people where we can have a positive difference. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, how can one person do that? But we can if each of us makes a positive difference. And that's what gets me excited. That got me out of bed last week for sure, knowing that you can make a difference every day. And it's not always that big of a difference. I'll go to work and go to the office listening to a patient, just listening,
Yeah.
being present, being joyful, you
Yeah.
know. Why not? We have a choice.
For
We can
sure.
be cranky or joyful.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and ran into that version of you after you got out of the hospital and you had that kind of revelatory view of the world, and you walk in the room at your age now with the coffee table book in your hands and you hand it to that young version and say, this is how your life turned out. Would that version of you that's young believe it or not?
Hmm. That version of me when I was young didn't see what was possible.
Yeah.
Um, no, they probably wouldn't believe it. Except their older self wrote the book, so they
Right.
have to believe
Yeah,
it.
for sure. What advice would you give? What would you tell that young version of you?
That taking care of yourself is not selfish, that it's essential, and you need to make it a priority. And that was how I got sick, is that I was taking care of everyone else, my children, my spouse, my extended family, certainly my patients and my team, and I wasn't taking care of myself because I thought I could do it all. I thought I could be this superhero and, just work a little harder. Just you can do it. Buck up, pull up your pants, put on your big girl pants. You can do it. And I've learned the hard way over time to ask for help
Yeah.
and to accept help. And that's been that's a tough pill to swallow. And I don't know if you're in the habit of it, it maybe isn't so difficult. But for me, asking for help to bring in the groceries. Be like, I got it. It's just, a couple more trips. I got it. Don't put your shoes on. No worries. Like,
Yeah.
no, thanks. I'd appreciate help,
Yeah.
passing
So,
out.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I get that. I totally get that. And especially I tend to have that ego where it's hard to do that. So yeah, and it's good when it happens because we all do need a little bit of a break here and there, no matter how small it is. Um, so of everything that you've accomplished in your life, everything you've evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
My children.
Yeah.
That didn't take a minute.
Yeah.
We've got two beautiful adult children, right now 22 and just turned 25. And besides being proud of their accomplishments in school and in life, they're beautiful people. And I couldn't hope for anything more than that. You know, they're good people in the world, good humans.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of all of your patients that have known you in a capacity, in a healthcare capacity, and you were to tell them a fun story about your life, something like jumping out of an airplane, the first concert you went to, outrunning a bear, a fun story that might humanize you a little bit, what would be a fun story you would tell that room?
I did jump out of an airplane,
Okay, there you go.
and my dog outran a bear twice.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's really helpful to be self-deprecating and relatable, right?
Yeah,
That's the thing. I share things not because I think I'm perfect and this is the only way. The wellness that I share and that I support and that I teach, it's not strict. It's not like you have to be this diet and you have to follow this exercise regimen and you have to do it by the book or you're a loser. It's not that at all. It's know yourself. I'm not trying to change you one bit. Joe is perfect exactly as he is. My goal for Joe is that he is more self-aware. Because when you're tuned into yourself, then you can make proactive choices that support you and nourish you and grow you and help you to be well. And you can also know, like, yeah, that's my tendency. I have the tendency to fill in the blank, you know, get hot-headed or short-tempered or judgmental or take things too seriously or whatever that might be. Or I tend to get my feelings hurt. And then you can recognize them so that you can get yourself back on track a little more easily. Because I'm a firm believer that we all have everything we need to be well and healthy and happy, right? And it's just
yeah.
tapping into that. So everything I'm about is to help people like you, like everyone else, to be more aware of themselves so that you can take better care of yourself and enjoy greater wellness.
So speaking of yourself, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, patients, colleagues, everyone that gets your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Mm. I'm a woman who's trying to do it right. And I'm human and I'm fallible and I give so much heart. I give it my best and I'm not perfect at all, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to reach out, they want to get to a better place in life, they want to get your book, Bliss Not Burnout, any of the good business in your world, where's the best place to go?
So you can go to my website. That's my name, Dr. Roberta Garceau, just all one word.com. You can Google up Bliss Not Burnout. You can search elemental dash wellness, my trademark approach to wellness. And I've got websites for that. Everything's going to point to each other, and we're working on making that more streamlined. But you can certainly email me there, message me there, follow me on LinkedIn at my name, Instagram, sign up for twice monthly newsletters, and it's not selling you anything. It's just all good vibes and positivity and tips and strategies and tools.
Absolutely. I get that feeling on the website. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I appreciate it. Best of luck with everything and have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Joe. You too.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. You too.